Hallo alle zusammen. Es ist Montagabend, 20:30 Uhr. Wir sind live. Und normalerweise hätte ich jetzt bereits jemanden aus Irland mit dabei. Leider haben wir gerade noch ein paar technische Probleme. Das hatten wir letzten Montag auch schon mal. Da wurde das vorher alles getestet und jetzt ja, ist es leider heute Abend auch wieder so. Aber der Brandon von Killowen wird noch zu uns kommen und in der Zeit sind hier auch schon ein paar Zuschauer. Ja, hallo Dennis. Wir haben uns heute schon gesehen. Hallo Michael. Ja, schön, dass ihr da seid. Wir werden uns heute mit der kleinsten Destillerie Irlands beschäftigen. Und zwar ist es die Killowen Distillery im Norden Irlands. Also, nein, in Nordirland, nicht im Norden Irlands, in Nordirland. Und ich habe selbst die Produkte erst relativ neu. Die sind erst vor ein paar Wochen angekommen. Ich glaube, vor 2, 3 Wochen. Und ja, es gibt einen Gin, einen Poitin und einen Whisky. Und wir werden über die Produkte alle sprechen. Ja, hier sind noch mehr dazugekommen. Hallo an euch alle. Ich muss mal ganz kurz gucken, ob der Brandon das jetzt hinbekommt, aber es sieht ganz gut aus, dass er jetzt bald zu uns kommt. So, ja, also Hagen geht heute Abend wohl noch mal laufen. Sehr schön. Heute Abend war ja besseres Wetter als den ganzen Tag. Hallo zusammen. Hallo Kevin, auch wieder da. Sehr schön. Ja, also dann fange ich doch mal an ein bisschen. Die Sonja ist auch da. Hallo. Es freut mich, dass ihr alle da seid. Ja, so Montagabend, 8:30 ist ja jetzt so ein bisschen meine Zeit für Livestreams. Hat sich jetzt schon so ein bisschen rumgesprochen. Das freut mich sehr. Vielleicht erzähle ich einfach noch mal ein bisschen was, wie ich zu diesen Livestreams kam, damit der Brandon dann auch von seiner Destillerie selbst erzählen kann. Also vor ein paar Wochen oder hätte man mich Anfang des Jahres gefragt, ob ich jemals regelmäßig Livestreams machen würde. Ich glaube, ich hätte sofort Nein gesagt, weil ich selbst vor der Kamera fand das eigentlich immer nicht so prickelnd. In der Jason auf Messen zu den Interviews kam, okay, dann habe ich das gemacht, aber war da eigentlich nie so sicher. Ja, und dann kam Corona. Und eigentlich fing es dann damit an, dass ich während der Corona-Zeit Geburtstag hatte. Und dann so abends gedacht, was machst du denn? Und gedacht, naja, kannst ja mal einen Livestream machen. Und dann hat der liebe Thorsten kam dann mit zu dem Livestream dazu und hat dann Irish Folkmusik gespielt. Und jetzt machen wir das auch ab und zu immer mal zusammen. Und aus dieser Schnapsidee, an meinem Geburtstag abends mal live zu gehen, hat sich dann doch jetzt ein wirkliches Livestream-Konzept entwickelt. Mittlerweile nicht mehr nur auf Facebook, sondern auch auf YouTube. Und ich freue mich sehr, dass heute auch ganz viele aus YouTube schon eingeschaltet haben. Da baue ich mir jetzt gerne noch eine Community auf, weil da war ich eigentlich noch gar nicht aktiv. Und ja, da kommen jetzt auch immer mehr Leute hinzu. Das freut mich sehr und ich werde das, solange wir jetzt also keine Tastings und Messen haben, auf jeden Fall beibehalten, dass ich 2-mal die Woche online bin, einmal montags und donnerstags. Und montags ist jetzt eigentlich so mein Konzept, dass ich immer jemanden aus Irland mit dazu geschaltet habe und diejenigen selbst über ihre Produkte und Destillerien reden können, weil ich finde das ganz spannend. Dass man einfach von den Leuten vor Ort die Infos bekommt. Also jetzt gerade zum Beispiel Killowen, da war ich jetzt selbst noch nicht, weil es sich einfach letztes Jahr nicht ergeben hatte und wir sind dann erst nach dem Sommer so wirklich in Kontakt gekommen. Und ja, deshalb kann ich jetzt so, also wenn ich jetzt vor Ort bei einer Destillerie war, dann kann ich einfach schon ein bisschen mehr Feeling rüberbringen, was ich jetzt leider für die Destillerie noch nicht habe. Deshalb ist es mir auch ganz wichtig, dass der Brandon heute Abend noch dazu kommt und euch ein bisschen mehr erzählt. Ich weiß noch nicht. Ah, er ist da, er hat es geschafft. Moment. Ich hoffe, ich habe die Zeit gut überbrückt. So, jetzt schalte ich ihn dazu. Hi, Brandon.
How you doing, Mareike? You well?
Fine. You are just jumping in at the right moment because I was just like, okay, I haven't visited your distillery yet, and it would
Yeah,
be great if you can talk about your distillery and not I am.
no problem. Sorry for the delay. I was trying to use another computer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's
fine.
good. No
Yeah.
bother. Yeah, so I think we're Ireland's smallest distillery. We're located in County Down in the Mourne Mountains. So it's a beautiful part of Ireland, just across the border. And it's a highland maritime environment. So we have a good connection with nature as well. Um, Lovely place. We use a lot of local ingredients for making our gins, for example, and we use a lot of oats for making our whiskey, which are grown in the local area. There's also turf from the Mourns, which is
Oh,
peat, and we
okay.
use that for smoking our own whiskies, which will come out in due course also. So
Yeah.
it was founded by myself, Liam Brogan, and Shane McCarthy, and we've been planning it for about 5 years, and we
Wow.
started building it about 3 years ago, even though it's very
I
small.
have a picture from the outside of your distillery, so maybe we can have a look. Just a moment. I need to open the picture. So here it is. I think that's the outside from your distillery. Am I right?
Yeah, that's it now.
Yeah.
It didn't look like that a while ago. A few years ago, it was in there was a tree growing out of the middle of it. There was no roof, and it was falling.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it now. So the mountain that you see in the background is called Knock, which means the hill of the fairies. So there's a dolmen on the mountain as well, and there's a lot of ring forts as well. So there's a lot good history with the Irish folklore in the area.
Cool. Very good. So we have lots of people watching us already. And there were lots of hellos now. They were jumping in later, so maybe we can say hello to some people before we go on. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Here it is. So I think we have from all over the area. Oh, okay. This guy was watching me yesterday, and he placed an order. That was at Jason. I think you also had a live
Good
stream
man.
with Jason some weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jason was good
Hi.
fun. Yeah, good man, Jason.
Claudia is watching every stream. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Claudia. Thanks for watching.
Julia is also always watching the streams, and on Thursday I will have a gin online tasting with her, and we will also have the Killowen gin at the online tasting, and we've sent samples to consumers, and they can taste at home, and we taste online, so it will be a big event on Thursday.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so the Irish people. Very good. Here, Kevin. This is an Irishman living here in Germany.
Hiya, Kevin. Is that you, Ditch? Yes, Moragach.
Yeah, so very good. Okay, it's great. Now you have told us a bit where are you located, and I think the most interesting part from your distillery is that it is very small, and you produce different to other producers, to other distilleries in Ireland. So maybe I have a picture also from your distillery, from the pot stills. So maybe we can have a talk about that. And of course, we have to taste your products later.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Or should we have a drink first?
It's always good to start with the drink, but whatever you think.
Okay, which one do you have in your glass?
Oh, right now I've got the Chocolina 10-year-old whiskey.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I have that also here.
It's a good starter, I suppose. But wherever you want to start, we can start.
Yeah, we can do that. I pour it in my glass, and we can have a whiskey first before we begin. That's fine.
Good stuff.
Yes. So, have a sláinte to
Sláinte.
everybody.
Sláinte, everybody.
Sláinte. So, here are the stills of your distillery.
So,
Can you see the picture? Yeah.
Yeah, I can indeed. So they're beautiful handmade stills. They're made from copper, and you can see that they're sitting on top of brick bases. The brick is there to encase fire. So they're Ireland's only flame-fed stills. Now, whenever you flame feed a still, it creates a unique flavor characteristic, and nobody uses flame anymore because it's dangerous. And in the Republic, it's just disallowed. In the north here, we've got precedent in that there's a few distilleries in Scotland doing it. So as being part of the United Kingdom, we use those as precedent, and we were able to use flame-fed stills. So, pardon me, whenever the fire heats the base of the still, it creates a caramelization of the amino acids and the sugars. This is known as the Maillard reaction, and it creates a charring flavor, a charring sensation, which is beautiful, which we all like cooked foods. We all like a tiny little burnt on our food as well, and that follows through into the whiskey, into the spirit. In our poitin, for example, you can really taste that. But if you see these two large tanks at the front in the center, those are the condensers. The condensers are huge. That's because they're worm tub condensers. Most distilleries nowadays use shell and tube condensers because they're highly efficient, and efficiency means fast, in my opinion, but it doesn't always create the best flavor. But for us, these are very slow. The worm tubs, it takes 12 hours from whenever we light our stills till we turn them off. So 2 12-hour shifts, and you can imagine how long it takes for the vapor to get through there. And those worm tubs capture a lot more flavor and a much slower process. There's no draw on the still that you would have, for example, with a shell and tube condenser. And much more of those heavy-bodied compounds come through in the spirit as well. So the distillate is big, it's oily, and it's delicious.
I think when we are just talking about the distillate, maybe we should switch over to your poitin, because I think this is the best to taste. This oily, rich.
It really is.
I share the screen more bigger. So that's the poitin. I just 2 hours ago I baked a bread by my own, and I did it out of the oven, and we got that smell, and we said, "Oh, it smells like that poitin." So
yeah, it really would.
Yeah,
it really would, because a lot of the grain comes through in this. Now,
yeah.
One of the biggest myths of the last century is the idea of a single malt, and people believe the single malt is the be-all and end-all of distillation and of whiskey, when in reality it just filled in a void that pot still whiskey left behind. And pot still whiskey was really mixed mash bills. Even Scotland in our prime used mixed mash bills and created beautiful whiskey. A mixed mash bill is basically different sorts of grains in your recipe instead of single malt. So especially, this is poitin, so Irish poitin, ask Gilliga in Irish means the little pot. It's our native spirit. This is actually a pot still style mash bill in there, but we created a unique mash bill for our own poitin. So the poitin mash bill, the recipe, is actually at the back of the bottle.
Yeah.
So
and I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the consumer deserves to know what they're drinking. The consumer, they're not stupid, and there's no transparency.
Here's the right comment. The poitin is brilliant.
It is. It's delicious.
Yeah.
And every time you go away from it and you come back to it, and it's so versatile. Cocktail makers absolutely love it as well because of its full-bodiedness. It's 48% alcohol, but it doesn't come across that way in your palate because of the oiliness in it. So those oils that come through the distillation process mean it's less harsh in your palate. And most importantly, there's oats in there too. And oats are just full of oil. And oats fell out of fashion, unfortunately, in Irish distillation. And we're bringing back oats. So that's one of our main aims.
So from this poitin, would you also produce a whiskey?
You could. If we were
I know
to,
you could, it's not technically allowed, but would you do it?
we were thinking about it. We've got a cask there in the warehouse, and we've got a lot of poitin, and we're thinking about maybe putting it in. We're in two minds. This was
Yeah.
just today. I was thinking about it, but it's. I think it's got it. Our pot still whiskies have their own mash bill already, but this pot still here, this has its own mash bill too. So we've changed this mash bill so it's more palatable at the moment, and the stuff we have with whiskey is better when it's left to age for a while. So the things that you're getting here, for example, you've got rye in here as well, and rye is very spicy, and you've also got unmalted barley. Now everybody thinks malted barley is the most important thing, but in Irish whiskey, you used to use unmalted barley, and it wasn't because of any tax avoidance scheme back in time. It was because it added flavour and character to your whiskey. And when you put that into your mash bill, into your mash tun, and you're mixing it around, the enzymes from the malted stuff jump across to the unmalted stuff and convert those starches into sugars for you during the mash, and it creates a much better flavour. You get a lot more of those green notes, a lot more of those peppery notes, and a little bit of pine and sap, from walking through a forest type of feeling as well. So I haven't actually had this in a couple of weeks, and I'm really enjoying it. So another bit.
We have a comment from Kevin. I think it's great that Brandon always has the whiskey at cask strength, keeps the integrity of what was put on the cask, also lets the drinkers water if necessary. I think we can come back to this when we are getting more to the whiskey.
Good man.
I think that's very interesting. And then there is another question for the distillery. It looks very nice, but what difference does heating a still with a flame make to heating it another way with respect to the final result?
So as we touched on earlier, Simon, the flame creates hot spots at the base of the still and creates a little bit of burning through the still, and the amino acids, the proteins and the sugars burn together, and they create what's known as the Maillard reaction. It's named after a French guy who discovered it, and the reaction is similar to what you get in the searing of a steak on a barbecue, or cooking the top of a creme brulee, for example. So those sort of notes that we've evolved as humans to like, since we've learned to cook foods by the fire, we've evolved to like those notes. So you'd be drinking this and subconsciously you'd be liking it, because that's the theory anyway, because of the Maillard reaction. And that's just a small part of it, but you can there was some distilleries in Scotland, for example, that Glenfarclas changed over to a steam still, and 3 years later they realized the spirit didn't taste as good, so they got rid of their steam still and went back to flame fed still. So it's a no-brainer. It makes a massive difference,
Yeah. Good. So maybe for all watchers, you are welcome to ask questions about the distillery and the process and everything. Yeah, I think this poitin is very, very special, very unique. I've never tried poitin which is so smooth and oily, and you can really enjoy to drink. So what we have in Germany is the Schnaps. And often I think poitin is like, okay, drinking a schnapps. But this one you can really enjoy.
It tastes, it's like an aged whiskey, because it's so mellow and so smooth. And the secret is, do you remember I mentioned earlier, we're like 12 hours in our still?
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of interaction between the distillate and the copper. So whenever that steam's in there, it's moving around a lot. We only ever half fill our stills, so it's interacting with the copper the whole way through. And in fact, our spirit still only needed to be 500 litres, but we increased it to 800 litres for this reason, so that there's going to be much more interaction. It was more of a startup cost for ourselves, and we started off with nothing. So, but at the same time, whenever the spirit's going through there, it takes a lot more energy to get through the line arm and into the condenser. So there's a huge amount of interaction with the copper. Unfortunately, it means we'll have to get new stills maybe after 10, 20 years rather than 30 years, where most people would have. So that's, or even some people go for 60 years. but we don't mind. It just means that it's a much better quality of spirit. The sulfates are reacting with the copper, and it's what comes out is much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another question. Does the flame fired still prevent you from distilling very high alcohol content?
Not really. Just the way distillation works. In order for those more volatile compounds to come off first, you need to heat it to a certain temperature, and the compounds that the alcohols that come off first, they would just come off as they would. It does mean we run quite an inefficient process, so that's much longer, that's much more drawn out, so there's nothing rushed. So it does mean that there's a much clearer definition within your cuts, which is good. There's no grey area, there's no heads or tails getting into your hearts. So yeah, no, we get the same alcohol content coming out. Yeah, same cuts.
Okay. So what I was just thinking about, we are just talking about Poitin because we know what it is, but I know that lots of German people don't know what Poitin is and a bit about the history of Poitin. So maybe you can tell a bit about the background of Poitin, where it comes from, and a bit about the history.
Yeah, so Poitin is an illicit spirit in Ireland up until very recently. It was illegal. You weren't allowed to make your own spirit at home. Part of a way to tame the unruly Irish by the British Empire was to tax alcohol making, and distilling at home, like in a lot of cultures, was a way of life. And some people were making money out of it as well. So they had to tax this because people didn't have money. So they had to tax what the currency was. And being Irish and being in opposition to, the occupation rule, there was a lot of fighting, as you can imagine. There was a period in history which became known as the Poitin Wars. And Eine, and Donegal would have been the most infamous for that. But in the Mourne Mountains, where we are ourselves, there was cases of Poitin men hiding stills and running away. And if you were caught with the components of the still, you were in a lot of trouble. So you had to actually be caught in the act of making the spirit. So you could always get up and run away. So illegal distillation often happened in commonage, so in the mountain areas. And sometimes it wasn't very good, but at the same time, there was so many Poitin makers that you didn't go to any Poitin maker. You would have went to a good Poitin maker. But as alcohol became more accessible in recent years, Poitin making became less of an art, and there wasn't that much good, unfortunately. But we're bringing back old mash bills that we've been aware of and old recipes that people used to make in the local area, and quality Poitins coming back again, which is good. But
that's very good. Yeah, I think you're also using an old recipe for your Poitin.
Yeah, we are indeed. So this is an old recipe from the area. So there's malted barley, unmalted barley, and then there's oats and wheat. So that's the important thing. Irish whiskey and Irish Poitin making, it wasn't about single malts. That's a myth that's been born out of the last century. It was always mixed mash bills. Pot still whiskey, for example, was mixed mash bills. And even the way we're making pot still whiskey today is a fallacy. The European Union is a fantastic thing, but we have a GI that protects Irish whiskey, but in essence, it's destroying Irish whiskey. So we're only allowed to make pot still whiskey with 5% oats, rye, and wheat. 5%, which is bizarre, because all of the Irish whiskey history shown that whenever we look through our old mash bills, that we used to make it with up to 30% or more oats, rye, and wheat. So for us, we're bringing back in that 30% oats, rye, and wheat. And unfortunately, multinational conglomerates have had an influence on the EU law, which protects our whiskey, and it's unfortunate, but we aren't.
Did you distill something which is not in the GI and lay it down?
No, it's not whiskey yet, but
not yet.
And it tastes far more superior than the current GI. So, in order to survive, Irish whiskey had to market itself as Scotch's, smooth little brother. And unfortunately, Yeah, done that, and Irish whiskey survived as a result. But now we're moving our way back to authenticity, and we should put our past behind us. The three myths of Irish whiskey are: Irish whiskey is smooth. That's lies. It's not
Yes.
smooth. It's complex.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not. We're not apologising for being whiskey. The other
Yeah.
one is that Irish whiskey is non-peated. Irish whiskey was just as much peated as it was non-peated. And
Yeah.
the third one, I don't know. I can't even remember.
The
I'm
third
getting
one
all
is
around.
Irish whiskey is always triple distilled.
That's the main one. Yeah, Irish whiskey's triple distilled. That
No,
was
it isn't.
even one of the big three. Only started being triple distilled in the 80s. So yeah, Irish whiskey was probably more double distilled than it was triple distilled. Triple
Yeah.
distillation is a cop out for efficiency, and the more you distill something, the more flavor you're stripping out of it. So yeah, Irish whiskey was double distilled. It was bold. It was complex. It wasn't apologetic, and yeah, it was
Yeah,
some.
and when you taste the old ones, like the old Tullamore Dews, or like the Napo 1951 or something like that, that's not smooth.
It's
That's
not.
no.
It's
You have
beautiful,
lots
and
of
it's spicy
spices.
and oily.
Yeah,
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 and that's what pot still is all about. And this, for us, we don't make a huge amount of money on our potting, but it's putting ourselves out there and it's letting people taste what proper distillate should taste like. And this is only scratching the surface. We've pulled back a bit on some of those oats, rye, and wheat in here, and it's still delicious. But the spice is there, and
yeah,
you imagine that aging in a cask for 3 years, it'd be phenomenal. But more
yeah,
importantly, the stuff that we've got aging now is even more impressive again. So we only have to wait for less than 2 years.
yeah,
And
yeah. Very good.
yeah,
Just 2 years to
we're bringing it
go,
back.
and then bring it back. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
yeah. These are always the three things I have to fight here in Germany, and it's always the same. And then I was last week I was asked at another live stream, would I recommend for an Irish whiskey for a Scotch drinker? And
Indeed.
I said it depends on where the Scotch drinking guy is standing. If he is drinking just independent bottlings with cask strengths, you don't recommend him a supermarket whiskey.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, and that's what often people are doing. And then they think Irish whiskey is smooth and triple distilled and non-peated.
And mostly blended as well.
And blended. Yes. And blended.
Yeah, but
So,
pot still will come back.
so
Yeah.
Kevin says, good man, Brandon, keep up the fight to change the GI to how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Marty, Brandon, all the stuff you have put out so far has been awesome. What are your plans with regards to your distillation and peat? How much will be peated, unpeated?
Okay. So what we do is peat is with our peated stuff, and we've non-peated stuff. So probably about 60% of what we're releasing is going to be peated, and we peat as much as we can on site. So we malt and peat, smoke our own oats, but we also buy in some peated malt as well because we've only got a very small shed for smoking in. So basically, we've got a makeshift smokehouse which we put turf inside, and we light the turf and take it from there. So there is no peat smoked malt, peat smoked oats really in Ireland. So that's what we try to create then, which is really tasty. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I think you're doing some very interesting things, and maybe when we got the Poitin, we can start talking about the whiskey, and then maybe we do the gin at last. I would recommend,
fine.
because this is the one which is available in Germany at the moment. Just a few bottles. Yeah, and I really, really like it. So you call it the experimental series, and I think that it really is.
Exactly, and it doesn't mean that it's a reduction in quality in any way, but it means that if you have a range of casks and you're putting them into very experimental casks, things that aren't used every day, but yourself, enough of anything is fantastic, but you can always take it too far. So we always have to sample our whiskies, which is good fun. And just before we pushes it too far, we pull it out, and then it's ready to go. So There's a few of this series that we've taken out of the cask, and they're ready to go. But sometimes you just think, what does the market want now? And you also want it to be very different from our previous release. So the first one was a dark rum, but this one was the most interesting cask ever. And I'm delighted a lot of it went to Germany because it's fascinating. The cask itself comes from the Basque Country, and people often overlook the Basque Country, but it's one of the most ancient cultures in Europe. The most ancient culture in Europe. They've their own language, they've got their own wine. They even have their own grape, and it's such a small area, and they've got their own grape, which is indigenous to that area, and they've been using it for hundreds of years. And it's called Chocolina, or as the Spanish would say, Chocolate. And it's a very young wine. It's full-bodied. Wine, people would turn their nose up at it. It's not exported outside of the Basque Country. It's quite trendy in Shoreditch in London and in Manhattan in New York. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, the Basques just drink it all themselves, which is great. So we went there and we got a cask from the Basque Country, which held Chocolina wine. And what we really like this, that aggressive tartiness that comes from those white fruits in the wine. And we wanted to add to that a little bit more. So we took the heads off the cask and we put in virgin acacia wood heads. So these lovely heads were put on the cask, which give a lot more of that, orchard fruity notes and a lot more of that tardiness and a little bit more vibrance. Because one of the previous whiskey we released, the dark rum, was more vanilla and mellow. But then this one is just full of life, absolutely full of life.
Yeah, and totally.
It's keeping in line with the Killowen ethos. No filtration. So some people would say no chill filtration. We go one step further and we say no filtration. I don't know why anybody would filter a whiskey, because whiskies are, you give it to the consumer, let the consumer water it down and let the consumer filter it if they want. But whenever you filter something, you lose flavor. And when you water something down, you lose flavor. Basically, it's starting to water. So most whiskies go out at 40%. Some people are a bit rebellious and go to 43%. We've gone for 55.75%. Every bottle is hand bottled, and it's also written. The numbers are written on by hand. The percentage of alcohol is written on by hand, and so the units as well in the back, everything's written by hand. So we've wax dipped every bottle ourselves. We dip them in the wax. We stick labels on, and we fill each bottle individually. So it's a labour of love. It really is, and it's something that we're very proud of, and we really do stand by it. And so, we're delighted that people in Germany can taste it. And there's a sweetness to this whiskey as well. And I think the Germans have got a sweet tooth too, which is great.
I think I have it now here about half an hour in my glass. And I think there is lots of dark chocolate on the nose.
There is actually, yeah.
Yeah.
There is indeed. Especially that spiciness too. Goes very well.
Yeah.
And there's a tiny bit of sherry influence there, and that's because the previous one of the previous whiskies was in a sherry cask. So in Ireland, there's so much whiskey out there, and we're going through quite a boom, but nobody tells you where the stock comes from. Even the big distilleries that are everywhere and have their massive marketing budgets, they don't tell you where the whiskey's coming from. They write their name on the bloody bottle, and they don't say, all right, just pretend it's their own liquid. And now all Irish whiskey's tasting the same, which is annoying of the vast majority of it, and they don't tell you where it's coming from. So provenance is important. Telling people want to know what they're drinking. Yeah. So Killowen, we say, right, the market has to change. So we want to lead by example. We want to produce the whiskies that we want to drink, and we think other people want to drink. They don't know they want to drink them yet. We just have to educate them that they want to drink it. Yeah. And put as much information on the bloody bottle as possible. So at the back of the bottle, we say the breakdown of the whiskey, where it comes from. So there's an element from Northern Ireland. There's an element from the Republic as well. So there's a part comes from County Louth and part comes from Bushmills. You're not allowed to mention distillery names or you get sued. But I think if you
know that
cells, you can figure out.
You just need to keep an eye on the map, and then you know it. So we have another question. Why do you name it Experimental Series?
Yeah, so we touched on earlier that we're trying to be as experimental as possible with our casks, but it by no means is the quality lessened or anything.
Yeah.
We wouldn't release it if it's not good to release. We're not going to release it, and everything we've released so far we can stand by and be very proud of. So we're being experimental in that we're pushing the boundaries. These things aren't normally done in Irish whiskey, and we're doing it. So we like to think we're setting a good example. And I firmly believe 1 year from now, every distillery in the country will be producing similar to us. There'll be cask strength, no filtration, or at least giving the integrity, the bottle integrity it deserves by telling people where the product comes from. So that that's experimental enough for us at the moment.
Yeah. Think so. Yeah, that's cool because I started with Irish whiskey in 2011, and there was really no cask strength whiskey on the market. So I set up my own independent bottling line for cask strength whiskey because the Germans want to have cask strength whiskey, and no one of the big ones does it. So I set up Black Rock. So this is my independent bottling. It's just bourbon casks and cask strength, no chill filtration, no color.
Yeah.
And the people really like it. So I think Germans will really like your stuff. So there is one more question from Marty, but what I would like to ask the people who are watching, which cask would you like to see from Killowen Distillery to be bottled? So like a rum cask or a, I don't know, sherry cask, port cask, or something experimental. So maybe we can get some comments for that. That would be very interesting. So
that'd be great. Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. So Marty, Brent and Mareike, glad to see you being available in Germany. Marty, you are in Northern Ireland. I think they may be missing out by not getting the first cask rum one. Okay. Can you tell us what is happening in the last 3 experimental series?
Martin, I would love to tell you, but I'd have to kill you. So no. No.
No.
We can't. Sorry, Martin. No, not today.
No, that's fine. I think there must be a surprise what will be coming. So
yeah, we don't actually know ourselves which ones to be released, and initially we thought there was going to be 5, and now it looks like there's a 6th one which has just creeped along because there was a local brewery that we've teamed up with, and we thought that one of their products was fantastic, and so we tested a bit of whiskey with it, and it was, so we filled a cask, and it's ready to go now as well, so we're in 2 minds about what to release, but in fairness, none of the casks are as interesting as the Chocolina one in terms of its uniqueness, and also it's the fact that it's a hybrid. We've replaced the heads on it, and like virgin acacia wood can be very aggressive, and we think we just pulled it out at the right time. So we're very proud of that one.
Yeah, I think when you taste it, you get lots of alcohol, and then the alcohol disappears. You get lots of flavor. You get lots of different notes on your mouth. So you have the chocolate again, and some sherry notes, and some fruit notes, and
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of those are orchard fruits as well. They come from the County Antrim element as well. Those apricots as well. I think they balance very well with the notes that are coming from the acacia wood. I thought that's what we intended to do from the start, but we get a lot more spiciness from the wood than we thought we would. A hell of a lot more spiciness in the palate, and some people like that, and some people don't really. And it's important that people try it, and we're very fond of it now.
Yeah, very good. So we got some comments what the people would like to see. So smoke with something sweet is always good.
I agree.
Good.
Yeah.
Then we have here maybe a Malmsey Madeira cask.
Good man yourself, Chris. Thanks very much. I'm going to take that note down.
Yes.
Good man.
Madeira would be great, or a port pipe.
I think, Paul probably enjoys everything in port pipes.
Yeah. And he has already the bottle from you here in the picture. So, okay. Does sherry in the last months I start to like port finish very much? So port again.
I agree, Ollie. Yeah.
Then Claudia says rum. Yeah, there was already one rum. Stout,
And
cider.
watch
Cider?
those spaces. You're right. Cider's very good, you know. And
Yeah.
I was speaking with yourself too about maybe
Yeah.
using a German cask, because there's some nice, interesting German drinks out there, and we'd love to finish
Yeah.
something in an Aberwein cask, or else in a German cider cask, just to see what happens.
We just need to find an apple wine which is in a cask. That's a problem.
That's true. And then what about Jägermeister? It's actually put in a cask before it's bottled as well, I think. So it could be worth a try. Not the final product, the halfway house, I think might taste better than the
Yeah.
try.
Maybe.
Experimenting is always good, you know.
Yeah. So then we have another one. Sherry, a wine cask, but unpeated.
Yeah.
Then again, poured. So maybe you should do something with poured.
I think port's important now, it looks like.
Yeah. Hi, Neil. Great to see you. You met Neil at the Whiskey Life in Dublin. He told me you are a great man, he said, and I should be in contact with you. So
Good man now. Thank you.
yeah. So then we have stout cask again.
Stout cask's even important.
Okay, here's Jason. Hi, Jason. Oh yeah, this is interesting. A good whole Rheingau Riesling cask. Yeah.
Good idea, Kevin.
This is interesting. So Kevin, give us the contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PM
this is something really interesting. There are some.
We should do that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Kevin is living anywhere at the Rhine, so maybe he knows.
He's involved in the pub scene. He plays music as well. So
yeah. So yeah, let's have a look. Okay, this is a fish, and we don't do a fish cask.
I was actually considering this, to be honest. We live right close to fishermen, and maybe if it was in and out very quickly, you know, it could work.
Don't do fish cask.
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, Neil is very good. He says he stored a Jägermeister in a cask and he sent it over just to see the result. Good idea.
Stuff. Let's do
the
that.
Jägermeister is cheap, so.
I know.
IPA cask, yeah.
Yeah. Good man, Shane.
Okay, now we are getting very experimental. Steak cask. No. Yeah, but there was someone who did something with coffee, so coffee in a cask and then some whiskey in it, or yeah.
The thing about cask finishes, you can be very contrived. You know, if you purposely season a cask with false pretenses, you know, it's contrary, it's not authentic. And then you're going to put your alcohol in afterwards. But if you were to get a cask from a particular industry that was genuinely used for that industry, and then you use it, I think it's okay. So I think if we start to fall into that, you know, downward slope of just seasoning casks for the sake of seasoning casks, we're going to get into trouble. And hopefully the Irish whiskey industry doesn't go in that direction. So that's what I believe personally, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Have you been in contact with Paul? I said it before. When is the salt and vinegar season cask finish?
Thank you, Paul.
But then with fish and chips.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear, it'd be lovely on a Friday.
Yeah. Okay, there is just a German question. I just need to translate mit VDP. I don't know what VDP means. Okay, I know what he means. Okay, there is already Teeling did a Riesling cask, and they had it also from the Pfalz, from this area, and they are advertising the vineyard where it is from on their bottle. Yeah. But I think this one would have had a bit more finish. So when you are smaller and you always taste your cask, you can leave it in longer. And I think it's very interesting to have a Riesling cask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so now you have more ideas what you can do in the future.
Thanks very much for all of that research and development there. I should be paying you a wage for that.
Very good. Yeah, so this one here we're talking about is available here in Germany. And what I have to say to all the German viewers, we have a 5% voucher till tomorrow. You just have to use the code Killowen on our online shop, irish-whiskies.de, and you get 5% off of all the Killowen products.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So this is because we are doing the stream tonight.
Thank you very much. I let everybody in Germany know as well.
Yeah.
Great.
So I really like this whiskey, and I just can recommend it. It's a really, really nice one, and it's something I have never tried from Irish whiskey. So in this tasting profile.
So like those two big distilleries so there's three whiskies here.
Yeah.
There's a County Louth single malt, there's a County Antrim single malt, and there's a County Louth grain. And the three of them mixed together have created this whiskey. I don't think anybody in Ireland's actually mixed these two whiskies together yet. And and everything's good in the right quantities. And this one just worked very well. And so it's good that it's unbelievable that nobody's done it yet, and it's good that we've done it. And using grain in a blend is something that's frowned upon, and people are always afraid to do it. People are afraid to mix grain with good, expensive whiskey, and we done it, and it worked, and we've shown that it works. And I don't think another blend comes close, to be honest.
No.
Especially one that uses grain. And like you've got 12-year-old in here, and you've got 10-year-old and 11-year-old, and they all just work very well together.
So is the grain whiskey is the 10-year-old, and the single malts are the 11 and 12-year-olds?
Yeah. In essence, it's actually an 11-year-old whiskey, but we've just 10, and the future, the rest of them that we're going to be releasing are going to be 11-year-olds as well. But we've ran with 10 because that's whenever we decided to do it. So
good, very nice. Another question: is it possible to visit your distillery normally when there's no lockdown?
Yeah, it is indeed. And we've had visitors from all over come to us, and seek us out. We tend to have a cult following, which is great. There's people come to us, and we love having guests. Sometimes we can't take people in if we're in full production because we're Ireland's smallest distillery and there's no room. You couldn't swing a cat whenever we're in production. So we have to, whenever things are closed down and a bit quieter, we love to have people there. We've got the roller mill, and it's quite noisy, and we're mixing by paddling. We use boat paddles to stir our mash together, so everything's done by hand from start to finish. So people love to come and see. We've had lots of German visitors as well, and the old building's made from upcycled materials, so we're very environmentally conscious. So the bar is upcycled material, the bricks as well around it, some of them are upcycled. Everything, to be honest, the timbers in the roof construction, the doors, the windows, because we're a bond, the Revenue Authority, HMRC, require that we have window security. So we got an old Victorian gate and we cut it up into pieces and we put it over the windows, which is really nice. And they want steel doors as well and wanted reinforced walls. So we got old steel doors and pinned them to the back of the wall, and we welded together old steel doors and created large steel doors. And and the old existing shed doors are still there today. We just patched them up. So, and we whitewashed the walls, and everything just looks spick and span, So We also have an old shipping container attached to the side of the building. There was holes in the floor and the walls, and we just cladded it up and painted it, and it looks like a contemporary piece stuck in the side of an old building now. So it was falling apart. It was the guy was taking it to the scrapyard, and we took it for £500 and just patched it up and insulated it, and so it's now a grain store as well. So yeah,
Cool.
we're very proud of the way, and we do have a keen ethos, for the environment and protection of the environment. So any of the grains that we use on site go to feed the farmers' livestock in the local area. So there's lots of very heavy sheep and cows around the local area on the mountain, which is great to see. So nothing goes far. The fertilizer from the fields, from our distillation as well, just goes straight to the local area. So there's no carbon footprint as well, which is brilliant.
That's very good. So as soon as I'm allowed to travel, I will come and visit your distillery, of course.
Can't wait. Yeah, most welcome. Yeah. Definitely.
So we have 2 more questions here. Do you get sad when people collect your stuff instead of drinking it?
Sort of, but most people who are collecting our stuff actually buy one to collect and buy one to drink. And I've actually noticed recently that everybody starts drinking their collected bottle as well, and then they have to go back and buy another bottle. So,
okay.
So most people are drinking and collecting, which is fine.
That's fine, yeah. And here, Neil Brandon, what do you think about terroir? Is that concept worth following, especially for a smaller distillery like yours?
Yeah, well, it's a nice French term to use, but we've got our own terminology here in Ireland that we can use for that as well. But yeah, everything is from our local area. So some distilleries in Ireland that are claiming to use terroir aren't actually. They've got it very mixed up. It's an excellent advertising ploy. People love the sound of it. It sounds, everybody in Ireland, once you say a French word, they melt. They think it's fantastic. But what we're doing, it doesn't get any more authentic. There's no distillery as authentic as Killowen. Things are grown in the area. They're smoked in the area. It's made from start to finish in the area. The oats that we use come from the threshing festival, which is for the local hospice. So the local farmers are a fantastic bunch. Every year they grow an acre of oats and they harvest them, and they have a competition using old Victorian era equipment to see who can, get the most stuff harvested in their thread. It's like an early combine harvester. And at the end, they raffle off the oats, and the proceeds go to the local hospice. So Killowen Distillery in the last 2 years have bought enough oats to see us through the year. And those are the oats which are made in the locality, and they're going straight into our oat whiskey. They are organic type oats, but they don't have any certification, if you like, but things don't get any better than what we're doing. And the flavour, honest to God, things you'll taste it in time as well. It's phenomenal. We're very proud of it. We are very proud of it. I've never been so sure of anything in my life that we're making phenomenal whiskey, and hopefully everybody's making it too. And it'll be, the Irish whiskey industry will be a much better place as a result.
Yep. Very good. So we have a last product we have to talk about. So no more whiskey. Now we go to the gin. So you're producing also a gin.
Yeah.
A copper pot distilled gin. This one here.
That's half empty. You must be enjoying that.
Yeah, it's nice.
I think I've only got a little bit left in mine. So.
Yeah, but that's the second bottle.
Oh, very good. Very good. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Whoops.
So this stuff's lovely, especially this time of the year. Gin's hard to beat. It's lovely floral stuff, and for relaxing as well.
Yeah.
And you can take it with ice and tonic. It's great, especially our gin. we harvest the botanicals in the mountains. So we walk around the area, and we harvest meadowsweet, angelica root, all those native. So it's a native botanical gin, and
Okay.
so there's the juniper as well, comes from the Mourne Mountains, but we also buy in juniper because we can't harvest enough of it. So
Yeah.
we can be forgiven for buying in lemon zest and juniper because they don't grow too well in Ireland. So if we could grow orange and lemon trees, we would. But we
Yeah.
grow botanicals on site. So there's elderberry and elderflower, and meadowsweet is a key ingredient in this. So meadowsweet
Mm-hmm.
is a lovely ingredient, and when you smell it, it's actually quite relaxing. And the
Yeah.
old Irish legend tells the story of Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn was a fictional gobshite in Irish history. He used to run around fighting and killing and up to no good. So what they used to do was Cuchulainn, he was causing so much trouble, he had to carry meadowsweet on his person the whole time. Because in ancient Irish times, they used to use it to make painkiller. And
Mm-hmm.
even in more recent history, they would have grown it to create aspirin, but now they've gotten much more efficient ways of making aspirin. So it actually has aspirin in meadowsweet. So whenever you nose it as well, it's quite relaxing, it's quite mellow. And some people actually call it mellow sweet instead of meadow sweet for that reason. So it's a beautiful flower, and it fills the
Yeah.
whole air. And we only put a small amount in this, but it just ties everything together, and it's lovely. It gives that essence as if you're walking through an Irish meadow whenever you nose the grass. So it's really nice. There's also mint leaf in there, so there's
Yeah, you
three
get some
sorts.
mint
Good.
and citrus
Mm,
notes, and so I really like it
yeah.
also neat. I like to drink gin tonic, and it's really good for a gin tonic, but it's also very nice to drink neat.
Mm.
So yeah.
It's very mellow. It really is. It's very smooth. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Um, the mint, the mint, and there's a little bit of rosehip in there as well. So rosehip comes more later in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So we put these in the freezer then throughout the year. Rosehip it creates a little peppery note as well, I find. So people, when they do use rosehip, they're very careful not to use the pips inside. Call it itching powder, but we use those as well. And it creates a nice peppery note on the palate at the very finish
Mm.
too, which just balances that out because you don't want too much sweetness.
Yeah.
And so it's lovely and floral and very well balanced. So no, we're very happy with it.
Yeah, it's really nice gin, and there is not too much going on.
Hmm.
It's well balanced. You have the citrus notes, you have this peppery note, so it's really nice to drink. And do you distill it like a London dry gin or like a compound gin?
Yeah, no. So we use our big still, and whenever we get our alcohol, we put it back into the still, and we add a little bit of pot still distillate as well, and throw it in too. And then we've got a thumper keg in the middle of the still, and it acts as a gin basket. So the thumper, nobody, it's not in that photograph because we can take it off and put it back on. A thumper is something that's used in South American states, and it's used in the Caribbean as well. So thumpers are not used in Ireland or in Europe at all. So we're the only people to use it. So what we do is it's hugely inefficient as well. It takes so much energy for the alcohol steam to go through there. So it's got a little disc 3/4 the way up it, and we put all of our botanicals on top of that. So the alcohol vapor just infuses through there and rips all of those lovely esters out. And the first little bit that we get off the still, it's very astringent. So we take it aside, and then we take our hearts, which are much bigger than they would be in a whiskey, for example. And then the bit at the end, it tastes like rotten veg. So you just discard it. You don't use it at all. But so you get your hearts, and everything in our distillery is done by nose. So you just have a smell every time. You keep smelling. A taste as well. Don't taste too much, or else you get in trouble. But yeah, just keep nosing and nosing, and whenever the time's right, and
That's
there's always
okay.
two of us there, so we can we
Yeah.
can agree.
So Julia is asking, how is your gin produced? I think you've answered that. So if she has some more questions.
Julia likes Star Wars anyway. She's got her stormtrooper
Yeah, I think
picture
so.
up. I was joking with Mareike, Julia, saying that May the 4th is now Killowen Day and not Star
Yeah.
Wars Day after this video cast. So
Yeah. And I am not a Star Wars fan. So when
it's
you
all right.
said that, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, yes, okay.
We get you converted. We get you converted. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you, okay. Chris has a comment. The vapor infusion is a fantastic skill.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a good explanation about the gin, and maybe just your recommendation for a gin and tonic. What would you recommend to drink?
I think people can be very snobby about tonics.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the gin does the work. As long as it's not, am I allowed to slag off any particular tonics here?
Yeah, you can.
I don't like club tonic. I don't think it works very well. Schweppes, people give it a bad rap. Schweppes is actually a good tonic to use. It's honest. You know, there's not too much going on. If you're using a flavor tonic, there's something wrong with your gin. So don't use a flavor tonic with it. And use the Schweppes. Poachers do a nice tonic as well. So we like to use Poachers tonic too. So that would be Poachers and Schweppes.
Yeah, Poachers is the Irish tonic. That's very good, but I think it's hard to get here in Germany. I tried it several times when I'm over in Ireland, but I've never seen it here in Germany. But it's a nice tonic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's good. It's very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would like to ask all the crowd out there if there are any more questions you would like to know. I think we were talking about the distillery, about products. Is there anything you would like to add?
About these products?
And about the stream, about your distillery, about...
Just we keep working on a lot of different things. And right now, today, we done our first mash with a much higher quantity of malted oats, so it was fantastic. But I was so disappointed we couldn't get to Germany because of the coronavirus. We didn't get to your festival, and it was really upsetting because we were really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would have been the right festival for you, but next year.
Yeah, next year. Or we might even call it in the meantime, just for the fun.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, not?
Maybe there will be some shows in autumn, and then you can come over. Of course.
Without doubt. We'll just jump on a plane and go over. Yeah, no problem.
Neil, what about an experimental gin series?
Experimental gin series? Yeah, we've actually got that now. So we've got some gin resting in casks for a while, and they taste lovely. And sorry.
No problem.
That's a panger. And so we're going to release that, and we don't know when. So we've got a cask aged gin, which is it's lovely stuff. So we might just release it sooner rather than later. But sometimes you've got a few. You don't want to have too many products out there, and they take up a lot of energy. So we might just sit on it. We don't know yet. It's hard to focus, so we just need to keep our focus on what we have and play it by ear. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that might be very interesting. What I would like to see from Ireland, and maybe from you, would be a Navy strength gin.
Very good.
You don't get that from Ireland.
Okay, I think we can do it next week.
Yeah, I know that you can do it right away.
We can turn things around. Like we woke up, I was having a conversation with the local craftsman Maltco yesterday and stuff about oats and stuff, and then I just decided, you know what, I think I'm going to start doing this, and we just decided straight away to start using oats. But if tomorrow, I think next week we might do a Navy strength gin. In fact, I think it's done. Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea. Good. Thanks for the research and development again.
No problem. Yeah. Julia says a cat's aged gin. Yeah.
Well done, Julia. Very good. Very good.
Maybe we won't drink that one. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for taking your time, having you on the stream. And when we have new products from Killowen, we can do a stream again and talk about them.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
So Marty says Navy strength gin sounds awesome. So maybe I had a good idea.
It's done. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
We should be paying you a wage. You know, it's great. Thank you. Coming up with all these ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for taking your time, answering all the questions, and I wish you all the best. And the last words are from your side.
Yeah. The last words.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried it yet, get this in. It's quality.
Yeah.
Soon enough, there's not going to be any of them left, and we're very proud of them. You know, we'll never release anything unless it's brilliant. We haven't got the advertising budget that the big guys have, but I suppose that's what makes us unique. And anybody who drinks our stuff, you know, I'm very grateful. They do appreciate it, and we really appreciate them. Thank you very much. So nobody's ever disappointed. So yeah, enjoy it while you can.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and see you.
Slán.
Slán.